Hi, welcome to Total War Warhammer. This is Ross Algar, and if you've been following the series of videos, we've been going step by step through the Empire faction, going over the gameplay and the game mechanics. This particular video is going to be dedicated to actual army building and movement, and the stances regarding that movement. Now, when you first enter the game here, you select your army by just left-clicking
I
on
am
your flag,
Prince and Emperor.
and you'll notice a couple of things. All the units in your army are displayed. Your character is displayed over here in the left-hand corner, and you'll see actually a yellow overlay. This corresponds to the maximum allowed of movement according to our stance. Stances are basically what you do during movement, which are right here, this green button, and currently we have a stance of none. So we would traverse the world as normal. Any kind of terrain would affect our movement, of course, or any kind of attrition. Now, next up is a channeling stance, and once we actually get into magic, then we could move up to a certain amount of, like 50% of the maximum movement range has to be done, or a minimum of the 50% has to be done. And this allows us to tap into any kind of winds of magic that are floating around the world. If you can see back here in the background, I'm going to try to zoom in on this right here, see what looks kind of like a wave in the screen? Those are the winds of magic. In the actual board game, when two players would face off each other across a field of pre-painted miniatures, they would roll dice if they had any kind of wizards or any kind of a magic to determine how many magic dice that they would have, or they would determine how many they would have in counter. Well, this is kind of similar to that. If you go into the channeling stance, basically what that does is it allows your wizard to tap into the winds of magic, and he can collect a certain amount of pull that's always in reserve for himself. Every time you go into battle, you'll have a different amount of magic based on the game, and you could either choose to replay that, which is cost gambling, which it can become higher or lower. So we'll probably go into that a little more in depth in another video, but right now I just wanted to point out that this is part of your movement if you go into that stance. You also have the encampment stance. Now, as I had stated earlier in the previous video, that this is the particular stance that you go into to avoid any kind of attrition. Let's say if I had moved over here into the swamp to avoid attrition, I just to make sure I need to be in that stance. Or raiding. When you're raiding, you're also immune to attrition, and you affect any kind of public order, increases your income, but it causes negative consequences on the territory that you're in. Since I'm currently in my territory, then I don't want to do that for my own province. That would be bad. And then we have the ambush stance. Now, basically what this is we can hide our army along a particular path of movement if we think an enemy army is going to come that way, and they have a chance to spot us. If we're spotted, then we might find an army moving in to engage us right away. If, however, we're not spotted, then we have a chance to jump on them, in which we get a chance to react first before our enemy opponent is able to. And then last here in the other stance is the march stance, which allows me to move much farther. Now, I'm going to come down here so you can actually see this. Here's our normal movement. And if I hover over this march stance, you'll actually see the field expand, and you'll see the hash line.
Right.
Alright, you'll see the hash line of where my movement was. Now I can move all the way out here, whereas before my movement was all the way back there. I don't want to be in that stance right now, so we're going to select
Yes. To
regular
unite the
stance.
provinces.
Now, you have to be in the encampment stance in order to recruit. But you have to lose minimum movement requirement is 50%. So if I move too far, I'm not going to be able to recruit this turn. If I recruit this turn right now, I'm not going to be able to move. And the way you recruit units is right here in this recruit bar. Now, first I want to show you this right here. This is your movement tray. That's how you know how much movement you have. Let's say, for example, we're going to move our army by right-clicking right here at this little bend in the road.
Let's go.
That moves our army forward. And you see we've only used a 50% movement chance. Now, I'm still going to be able to recruit. See, I've got a local recruitment here of 1 sword and 1 spearman. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and recruit Let's see. We've already got one spear. Let's do one
Of
more.
course.
One more swordsman. And let's see. Yeah, one more swordsman I'll be doing. That way we have 3 spearsmen. 2 of them are just spears, one with a halberd, and then we'll have 3. So right now, if you notice right here, we go into the mustering. All right, this is the encampment stance. Basically, that means that our campaign movement is now disabled. And we can go ahead and end the turn. Now, you notice I can't go anywhere. Now, my threat area is not intersecting our enemy unit's threat area. So he will have the option then to go ahead and move into. So what I'm going to do here, in order to give myself a bonus, is I'm just going to encamp. If he tries to attack me, then I'll have a defensive bonus against him. You see there, it says melee distance plus 5. Alright, so let's go ahead and end the turn. Now, this is your end turn button right here, this big hourglass. And these are, I haven't really gone over these particular buttons in detail, but this is your end turn button. So we'll go ahead and hit that. It's going to go ahead and cycle throughout all the factions until it gets to the Secessionists, which are the last ones. And then we have the Winds of Magic changing and our world events, which I've gone over briefly in a previous video. But now it just says that the random chance to pick up magic energy has changed. It's moved on elsewhere from here. Now, we can go ahead and look at our objectives. If we can't remember what it was, we can hit this particular button here. This is the 9 on your keyboard. And we have our short-term or our long-term campaign goals that we selected at the start of our campaign. And we also have what our mission is, which is to engage the enemy. Now, this is the technology tree that we mentioned earlier. And it's tied to our buildings. We currently don't have anything built, so we don't have anything to research. We have our treasury. If we want to go over that, that's that button right there. Our faction, which brings up all our statistical data regarding our details, our faction summary, our strength and power, our current diplomacy, which we'll go into that. Diplomacy can be a little complicated. We'll go into that in another video in detail. But then we get our records. We got to get an overview of the empire, our statistics, what has happened thus far, and the overall statistics for the game. So you can get an idea of how things have been progressing with that button. Then we have the diplomacy button right here, which we'll go into detail in another video. And then our offices button, which pertains to actual recruitment building. So we'll get back to that here in a moment. Now, if you notice, we've got a series of offices. Once we recruit lords or heroes, then we can actually have them fill in these billets, and they provide certain campaign bonuses to our faction. Now, there's certain requirements to rank requirements for certain offices. They have to be a certain level before they can qualify for a certain point in office. As you can see in here, a spy master has to have a 5th rank, and a treasurer has to have a rank of 1, whereas a Reichsmarshal has a rank of 10, or a patriarch has a rank of 10. Of course, Karlfrens being the emperor, he will always have the emperor slot. Alright, so that's a brief overview of how you recruit. Now, there's also a global. If let's say I wanted to, I was outside my area and I wanted to go ahead and recruit globally, I could do that, but it does require twice the amount of time it was for your normal faction. Now,
I command here.
if I go ahead and hit that, okay, here's the global button. When you're in the encampment stance, then you can recruit globally, but if you notice, that takes 2 turns, while these only take 1. So if I wanted to spend another turn to go ahead and recruit, I could do so, and I could have access to the same units. Now, again, depending what's available in your province, means what you can recruit. At that point, I'm not going to go ahead and do that, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to engage Hemfree Kulf at the start of our turn. But first we need to come out of the encampment stance. So I'm going to go to none.
In the name of Magnus.
Alright, and then to do that, we've got our army selected. We right click on the enemy army to move and engage him.
Into battle.
And immediately we go into the battle deployment screen. So we have our army compared to his army. And this right here is probably the single most important piece of information in any battle. The more gold you have in this to the right, in which case we do, the more likely you're going to have a favorable outcome if you decide to do this randomly. The more this is red to the left, the more that the enemy unit has a power over your army. And so the favorable would be an outcome. Now, to speed up the game, you can always, of course, go ahead and auto-resolve, and I would recommend that when it's just a small particular faction that's not going to be detrimental to you and you want to get the game moving. But if, however, you certainly enjoy playing the actual battles, then by all means do so. You can always retreat, providing you have the movement points to do so. If we went right up to this guy and we ran out of movement points, we would not be able to retreat. We would be forced to engage him. Or we can go ahead and fight the battle manually, which is, quite frankly, a lot more fun. But for time's sake, we're going to go ahead and we're going to resolve the battle automatically. So immediately we have a decisive victory, and we show the outcome of the battle. We acquire loot. We gained a rank. And we didn't acquire anything else. Immediately we have to resolve the battle and decide what are we going to do with these 62 captives. This button here that's coin, if we let them go, we increase our treasury, but for the next turn we're going to suffer a -5 to our replenishment rate. So over a course of time your army begins to recover and rebuild. So I would suffer -5%. If, however, I wanted to go ahead and execute the captives and demonstrate my leadership capabilities in punishing secessionists, then for the next 5 turns I'm going to gain a leadership 4 in my particular faction. So I'm going to have a boost to my leadership, which if you're going to do more battles might be considerable, and for the next 5 turns. Or you can just take on the captives. You can say, look, I will let you go if you just swear off your allegiance to the secessionists, you swear your allegiance to Karl Franz, and you join me, then I'll replenish my army by 7%. So at this point in time, I think it's going to be more important to go ahead and demonstrate that resistance is futile, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to execute the captives. Now, the remainder of his army has run off, and we've achieved our mission in engaging the enemy army, and we now have a reward of a plus 1,000 in our treasury. So now we can see the situation.
Act quickly if you have any intention of securing lasting authority over the Empire. The people must learn that open dissent cannot be tolerated. Capture Grunberg and snuff out the resistance there.
Okay, Captain Obvious has just come out and given us our next objective, which is to capture the city of Grunberg, which is an open rebellion. We're not given a time limit on that, and if we are successful, we'll earn 1,000 treasury. Okay, so now we need to look at this situation. Remember that they have garrison, and they have 5 units in Grunberg, consisting of spearmen and swordsmen. There is several armies left. Let's say, well, you could still muster a little bit of a defense. Now, if I decide to wait and I go ahead and recover,
Who calls?
then he's going to have a chance to rebuild.
I'll ignore that.
Or I can go ahead and try to attack now while I've got the upper hand. But I did gain a rank. So the one thing you want to do, if you ever see this little icon right up here, it looks like an arrow, that means somebody, either a hero or a character, in my case Karl Franz, you also see that little arrow right there, means he has an unallocated skill point. Now you allocate skill points by going into your character details, which is this face with the magnifying glass, and you're immediately presented with your character sheet. You've got, let's go ahead and get Captain Obvious out of the way here. We've got his current hit points and his current battle statistics, his current battle effects, any campaign effects would be listed down here, any armor, hand weapons, talisman, magic items, and currently we don't have any. And we've got the info, where he is, how much his army upkeep is, who's he's fighting, any particular traits he has. So right now he gets +2 to his army in leadership. Then we have the skill tree. Now, skill trees are slightly different depending on the character. Lords and Karl Franz are going to have a very similar tree like this. Your Sigmar, your warrior priests, and your wizards are going to have slightly different, but very much your Empire heroes and your Karl Franz have something very similar. So you can either select hard to hit, which you give him a +5 defense bonus, the inspiring presence, which boosts the aura of his leadership, and then you have his route manager, which means I can move him 10% farther than normal, or I can go ahead and give him a warhorse. Now, the one thing to bear in mind is that as you gain skill points, you can move between all these trees. You're not locked into any one particular area. So right now, we're just going to go ahead and we're going to give Karl Franz a warhorse. Alright. And that's that. So, we can either go ahead and end this turn here, or we can go ahead and engage him. So, I want to go ahead and engage, because that's more fun. Again, now remember, I still got some movement left here. We're going to go ahead and engage him.
We must attack.
Now we got a situation where the garrison comes out and decides to fight. Now, again, I want to assess my strengths versus his, and his. And again, we look down at the battle deployment bar. Balance of power, again, still pretty much in my favor. They probably got maybe a 25% chance of achieving victory over me. Those are still acceptable odds in my opinion, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to hit the battle resolve button. And again, it's a decisive victory. We've got 80 captives this time. You actually see the garrison is... Oh, we got some magic armor. Look at that. A spell shield. Fantastic. Okay, let's go ahead and make an example of them. Now, since the captain got captured, we've actually killed him. Says Helmut Ludendorff, our enemy belonging to the Empire Secessionist has perished in the battle at Grunberg-Warreckland. Alright, so I've gained a messenger, a follower. This gives me a +6% bonus to my campaign movement. I've gained a spell shield and armor, which gives me +5 melee bonus and a magic resistance of 15%. And did I gain a rank? It appears I have. You see that little mark right there? So we're going to head and select our army unit. Go to campaign details. Now, this is where you change out any armor, hand weapons, that. You just hit that little tab. You can either select none, and then you can pass that particular piece of equipment on to another lord if you like. Same thing with followers, or your war horses, or any mounts, but right now I don't have any other characters, so I can only... Oh, you can only change a character's mount once per turn. Okay, well, since I've just added that, then they'll become available the next turn. That's good to know. Well, let's go ahead and take care of our skills. We've already got a war horse. We could go ahead and upgrade this to a level 2 horse, which gives him, it makes him a barded war horse, which gives him a minor bonus. But what I want to do right now is just to go ahead and let's start building in our actual character. Let's go ahead and make him hard to hit to give him a melee bonus. So he now has a +10 melee, as opposed to if you want to reset this, this is just this button right up here. It says little turn arrow here, reset the skill point, we get that back, and we can select Inspiring Presence. And so it gives you an idea of how this is going to affect your character. We'll go ahead and reset that, and we'll go set Campaign Route Manager. Now we see we've got a movement range of 16%, which is actually really, really good. And I'm almost inclined to change it to this, but let's go ahead and stick with my original plan and make him a melee fighter. Okay, because we still got some more battle. Now, I still got movement left. I can go ahead and engage the city of Greenberg. Let's go ahead and do that. Left click the city. Oh, and now I just made a key mistake. Left click my army. Right click the enemy city.
Raise your weapons.
Now, if you notice, the battle display button is a little different. I have another options. When you have an open walled city, you'll have the option available to, well, I say open wall, a city without walls, a town or hamlet, if you will. You have the option to encircle it, and basically you lay siege to it, preventing them to get out. Then I could go ahead over a set number of turns, then I could go ahead and defeat the army without completely exhausting myself. Now, there are things to bear in mind. An enemy army under siege after so many turns will suffer attrition after their supplies run out. But it could also affect me because, bear in mind, let me exit this here. Well, actually, I'm going to go ahead and resume. But there are two other towns that may have an army that might come to his rescue. So I don't necessarily want to lay siege. I don't want to break the siege. I want to go ahead, I could either auto-resolve this or I can go ahead and fight the battle. In which case, if I fight the battle, they really are likely they don't stand a chance. At this point, for the sake of time, I probably want to go ahead and hit the auto-resolve button. And again, we got a decisive victory. The entire enemy has either been killed or captured. I've only suffered 13 losses. I've gained another rank. Alright. Hit the mark. Now, we're presented with what do I do with the settlement. I could just go ahead and move in and occupy it. At which point, it'll affect in -10 for 1 turn to the public order. I'll suffer a -3 to public order, deteriorating at 1 point per turn for 3 turns. But I'll have 6% of my replenishment. I could go ahead and loot and occupy it, in which case I'll gain 348 treasure, but the detrimental effects of that is that the people will hate me for this. I could just go ahead and sack this city, which, yeah, I'll get the most reward out of that, but it will affect public order, and I will not occupy the city. Or I could just go ahead and raze it to the ground. I don't get any treasure, and then the village, town, whatever, is available for somebody else to come along and colonize it that can. Since I have other enemies about, that would be a bad idea. And because my particular objective is to occupy Grunberg and take back the territory that I've lost, I'm going to go ahead and occupy it.
The nation calls.
Now, I've gained another follower, a hunter, who's going to give me an ambush chance now of plus 10% for every attempt I try to lay an ambush. My mission was successful. I've gained 1,000 treasury.
Your burgeoning realm grows, Your Eminence, yet many evils still abound in this world. The Empire remains divided, and marauding greenskins still threaten your lands. Further afield, there are rumors of a dark force rising in the east, spreading the taint of undeath. You must remain vigilant.
Alright, thank you, Captain Obvious, updating us on the situation. And he gave us our next objective. We need to occupy, loot, raise, or sack 2 different settlements. And I'm not given any time limit. If I do that, I gain 2,000 treasury. So,
Sources report that Middenheim is sending help to the secessionists in an effort to destabilize the Empire, intercept their reinforcements, and demonstrate to Todbringer that there is but one master of Reichland.
oh, fantastic. We got our first battle request. Now, the Battle of Blood Pine Woods, which at some point I'll need to move my army into there, and then we'll fight, and then if I win, I get a Sword of Striking, and a hero, an Altdorf Battle Wizard, which would be nice to have. If I look at his enemy forces, then I can see, kind of based on this particular quest, what the enemy army is made up of. Now, I will state this and warn you in advance, this lies out the rear. These are only the core army that you need to defeat. There will be other units present. Bear that in mind. Plan ahead. But back to the task at hand. I have now occupied Grunberg. I'm in an encampment. I'm garrisoned in it. If I click on my army, I see I'm actually starting to replenish troops. And if you just hover over these little check marks, it'll tell you how many turns it'll take before that unit is back to full strength. In this case, 4 turns for my Reichsguard, 3 turns for my Spearmen. Looks about everybody else is going to be about 2 turns, except for Karl Franz. He's going to take 5 turns. So I probably want to spend the next 5 turns planning my next tactical moves, beefing up my army, unless there comes another threat. So let's go ahead and take a city of Grunberg now. We'll go back into our building menu, and we can see now the difference from when we actually looked at Altdorf to what an actual village looks like. Again, here's Altdorf, and remember we upgraded to the rally field. And here's Grunberg. We got a level 1 hamlet, which right now only has cattle pastures, which provides a plus 30 growth to my empire, but a casualty replenishment rate of 4%. At this point in time, I don't want to do anything. Now, if you notice, the same basic things are here. Settlement, military recruitment, military support, defense, infrastructure. Of these right now at level 1, I only have military recruitment and infrastructure available. If you notice here, that these are the same units I would have over in Altdorf. Now, this is again where your long-term strategic planning comes into play. I don't recommend that you duplicate your military recruitment that you have in another province, as it's unnecessary and just is a duplication of what you've already done, but it may be important to do later on. If for whatever reason we should lose the city of Altdorf, then that might be a good idea. Heaven forbid that that should happen, but it's possible. But then we have some other options. We also now have a guardhouse option in defense, which that was not one that was, if I recall, was available to us before. Yeah, in Altdorf, there's one major difference. These villages will have an option to defense where you can beef up your garrison. See, our current garrison is 3 spearmen, 2 swordsmen. At the next level, if we do that, then we'll add 2 pistoliers, 2 swordsmen, and 2 crossbowmen. So, something to think about. Think about and plan ahead how you want to use each of these provinces to boost up your empire overall and your ability to wage war. This is the Total War game, after all. It's not total provinces, although it sometimes feels like that. Anyway, that we have gone ahead and we've successfully completed several quests and upgraded our army to include units. Now, from here I'll point out, as the current situation goes, there's only 2 enemy holdouts left that we need to take care of to completely unify Reichland. And I have to decide what I want to do first. Do I want to take care of those, or do I want to go deal with Middenheim, who are currently supplying the secessionists? That I'll leave up for the next video on what we decide to do. Thank you so much for watching. Again, this is Ross Algar and Total War Empire series here, giving you a step-by-step approach, a gameplay, what you need to think about, and overall. Please go ahead and like my video. If you decide, go ahead and subscribe to my channel. There will be more videos forthcoming. And I am looking into upgrading these videos to include a little more immersive experience for you. But I hope you're enjoying these. And again, if you want to see anything, if you have any questions, please go ahead and post in the comments. I would love to hear from you. Again, this is Ross Algar, and this is Total War Warhammer Empire Faction. Thank you, and have a great day.